Hey, everybody, welcome to the Tax Resolution Success Show. This is your host, Michael Rosbrook, also known as the Rosman. And today, really privileged to be interviewing Chris Rivera. Chris is the Director of Client Relations and Business Development at Entigrity. And Entigrity is a leading offshore solutions provider to the tax and accounting space. And they help small and mid-sized CPA and tax firms hire qualified and experienced offshore staff, usually saving firms 75% of their personnel expenses. So, Chris, welcome to the show.
Awesome. Thank you, Michael. Very excited to be here with you. Thank you for taking time out to discuss this with me. I'm very excited.
Yes, I know this is a topic that you're very versed on and can definitely speak to it. So, Chris, my first question is give the audience a little snapshot on what's your background and how did you land at Entigrity?
Well, it's a good story. My background has always been in client relations and also sales and different avenues of marketing. However, I'm not a CPA, right? And so I come from a background working for Fortune 500 companies, climbing that whole corporate ladder. I've worked as an area manager and regional manager for ADT security services. I've been in construction, I've been in architecture, and some other industries as well. And I just wasn't happy, right? And all out of nowhere, a job posting on Indeed for a remote worker intrigued me. This was 4 years ago. And so I did the interview process and never met my current boss now, is also the founder, Sean Parrott. Never met him in person. It was all via, did we use Skype? We were using Skype at that time. And the interview process was 1 month, right? He was very detailed, very structured. And I was amazed by it. Normally you go into an interview, 30 minutes, they call you the next day, you start on Monday.
Right.
And this was, we had about 4 or 5 meetings and I had to write an essay. So he was very thorough. And so I got the job and we were working together, but working together remotely, right? And it's completely different. It's completely different. I'd lie to you if I said I figured it out in 2 weeks. It took several months. But to see his passion, his vision, and where he wanted to take this company, and I'm more of an executor, right? I don't have that entrepreneurial, mind. But if you bring me the idea and you need certain things done, I'll get it done, right? And so our relationship in the beginning, it was a lot of education, right? So I had to get, 4-year degree in 6 months of accounting. And next thing you know, I was on calls and then been working with clients ever since. And I've never been more happier, right? You got to love what you do. And what I do is work with clients and just build that relationship and always being the client-facing side. And so, that's my whole backstory and this process. And I took a risk, right? I didn't meet my boss till a year later and it was all new. But when an opportunity comes, you got to take it. See where it can take you.
Yep. I always say when the opportunity knocks, you got to get off your butt and answer the door. So, Chris, let me ask you, did that experience with you going through the remote hiring process, did that experience actually help when you're talking to some of your prospects or client firms who are thinking about using remote or offshore staffing?
Yes. And so getting off the ground, getting into a schedule, coming up with different ideas and how to work efficiently. There's a lot of distractions working at home, can affect productivity. But once I got that down pat and saw my boss, I was shadowing him on calls, and I started just thinking already of the questions I could get asked and things that would come into clients' mind. And I knew the remote side of it would be an issue. And I was doing research, and remote working's been around since the internet started, essentially like over 30 years ago. However, in the accounting industry, it's been, turning a blind eye to it, or just, we work remotely, 1 or 2 people here or there, and that's about it. It was never embraced. Right. And so working in that environment helped me relay that to the client, right? It doesn't matter where you are, right? And I was speaking with a client in Texas and I'm in New York City, right? Staff's in India. Does it really matter where they are? right? As long as they're knowledgeable, competent, and dedicated to you. And what's the difference? So yeah, it definitely helped out working first as a remotely, and then being able to relay that to the client for sure.
So how do you find, because I mean, is there any reluctancy on the part of your partner firms, your clients, is there any reluctancy on offshoring some of their staff work? And give me a typical example of what an engagement looks like. What do they normally have Entigrity do? What's the process? How do you match them up with somebody who's qualified with regard to the project?
Sure. So if I have 10 calls, 1 out of 10 comes to me, they need 2 full-time people. I'm literally an order taker. We're done in 10 minutes. The other 9 is 30 minutes minimum each one, and it's their first time, right? So the fact that they're there, what's that?
A lot of education.
Oh, yeah. So, but what tells me that there's interest is they set the call, right? Mm-hmm. The CPA, you guys are insanely busy. And to take that, whether it be 5 minutes or 30 minutes, to take that time out, I respect it, one. But there's always hesitation, right? But they're there today, so they have an open mind, they're willing to explore it, right? So exactly what you said, my job is to educate and inform and paint the picture on how this could work, right? So the biggest pain point prior to this ongoing pandemic was the remote aspect. They're not going to come to my office. They're not going to be in my office. How are they going to get to my office? Yeah. was always a sticking point, right? And so that was the first thing. And then, so nonetheless, it's in India, right? So they weren't too comfortable with the remote aspect. Now it's in India. But there were many of the clients I work with have heard of the concept, and they were just, that word remote would just still scare them off, and didn't want to try it at that point. Now, the clients who were like, all right, if these companies can do it, I could do it. We have no cost, no obligations, no pressure. Staffing's the number one challenge. We don't want you to rush into this or anything like that. So now they're going to interview. So it starts with me first, and then I hand them off to the resourcing team in India. I take very detailed client notes. I want to paint the picture for them like they were on the call. So now they get a good idea of what the client's expecting. And we ask for our clients to be very specific. And so years of experience, the position, I've had some clients create positions out of nowhere, the hours per week, because there's flexible options, day-to-day tasks, right? And so if you just put bookkeeper, we're going to give you a 1-year resume bookkeeper. But if you put tax-based bookkeeper, help me out with some data entry and as a healthcare background, and very specific, we'll get you those resumes. And then you get to interview. I mean, that's the best part. You get to handpick who you want to work for you. There's other models where you're signed, and sometimes this stuff doesn't work out. So now you have somebody that you're working with, and you also have a client relationship manager who you provide feedback to, and they work closely with you as far as adding additional hours, people, everything going good, everything going not so good. It's always important to keep the lines of communication open. And then at that point, it's expand, right? Build a team. And so usually the first month, you can interview in a week or two, but within the first month with onboarding and training on the nuances of their business, the staff is up and running. And that's the best part.
So, wow. So that's a big point of difference that you mentioned, because I just assumed before we got on this Zoom is that Entigrity would just assign certain folks to that person's project. But the point of difference is you actually get to interview for the position, which I think is really, I think that's really cool, actually.
Yeah, and you're spot on, because the outsourcing and the offshore and the remote all get intermingled into one, but it's separate models. I mean, you could outsource anywhere. I could outsource to you, you could outsource to me, I could outsource to India, or simply offshore staffing, right? So it is not in this country, but it's not outsourcing. So what does that mean is, wait, I have control over the employee. And that's key, because your day-to-day work, your accounting, your bookkeeping, tax, if you don't know who's doing it, there's going to be issues. You're going to run into problems. You're going to run into inaccuracies and inconsistencies. So working with somebody that is part of your team, that you can scale and grow your firm, and with your associate with flexible options, it's going to reduce a lot of the heavy review and erroneous work, So yeah, but you're right. There's the two models. They seem the same. Everyone thinks they are. And then sometimes it gets a bad rap. Outsourcing is a great model if you have a huge project, a huge opportunity, but you want to bog down your local team, outsource it. But day to day, it's tough.
Right. And what would, I'm sure that, do you see a spike now, like during tax season?
Yeah. It's the spike started in May of last year. Traditionally, I work, 16, 17 hours, like CPA season hours from October till late January. I mean, we're still going strong. We're year round. So that's the important thing, providing stable staff year round. But there's been a huge uptick with the pandemic. It's showing everyone that, hey, I can work remotely. It's not so bad. And it doesn't matter where they are now. And my team's all over the states or all over the city. And so they're more comfortable. They're excited. Yep. It's funny working with clients and hearing, one client the other week said, I could just click a button. The documents get sent off. It's marked where they have to sign. The client just clicks buttons. I get it back and I'm done. I used to have to go meet with them or put it in the mail or get lost in the mail or have the fax. And so to see the clients excited about this model now is exciting for me because I've been doing it for years. And so it's like, yeah, no, you can do it, right? And they're excited. They're like, I'm not working as much as I used to before. I could be with my family, my kids. And it's exciting. It's exciting times for sure.
And what would you say, what's the percentage breakdown of the type of work? I mean, how much is bookkeeping versus, let's say, tax prep versus monthly accounting versus specific project work?
Good question. So that leads me back to where clients will call us for all different reasons, right? So if I had to rank them, tax, number one, literally 1A would be bookkeeping. Okay. 2 would be audit, and then 3, accounting and everything else. So tax, bookkeeping, and audit, right? And there's many firms that we work with who are already offshoring as well. But the company that they're with just can't provide them the services that they need now, right? And so they look elsewhere. And so now they come to us. So it's a little bit easier to talk to them about offshoring. It's more about their specific needs. And it's always important to diversify your resources. You need a local team. You need a local remote team now. It's fine to have that, right? And then you can have an offshore team. I mean, it's truly an American workforce, but it's always been a global workforce too. Right. And we're here to help out everybody. And that's the whole idea. And so diversifying the resources to having, I think one client I worked with had 3 offshore firms she's working with, including us, as well as a local team virtual of 20. So she has associates all around the world and everything's going and clicking. She's growing and scaling. That's the idea.
Got it. And then when you say audit, because I was surprised that you mentioned audit, is it that the CPA firm, the client CPA firm, has a client that's undergoing an IRS audit? And I mean, could you shed some light on that one?
Sure. So what I've seen when clients are coming to us in regards to audit is the data entry side of it. So junior auditors, right? We haven't seen too many come to us for like audit supervisor, audit senior, more on the data entry side where they're collecting, gathering everything and giving it over to the seniors, the managers for review, who are then client facing.
Got it.
And so I've worked with companies just in that aspect where they're building teams of 3 to 4 to help offload. And so then their local teams are becoming more and more client facing virtually too. And so they're able to not be bogged down or work late hours because we're helping them out, especially with the hours in the morning that they're working for them, is able to help them offload that work. So that's what I've seen in us developing is the junior auditing side for our clients.
So besides the huge advantage in the cost factor, in other words, it's much more cost effective to have at least certain of the work offshored. In addition to that, or besides that, is it also becoming more popular? If you put the pandemic aside for a minute, is it also becoming more popular because CPA firms can't find qualified people in the U.S. to do the work?
Yeah, it's interesting. I spoke with a client. It had to be at least 3 weeks ago now, and she's actually a consultant for the CPA firm and trying to find them staff. It's down in Atlanta, Georgia, and she told me her experience. She was on the phone with Indeed because the resumes they were getting were just kaput. There's just nothing. Yep. And then there was a big disconnect. And so she spoke with them, and they literally told her in that area specifically, for every 10 jobs that are posted in accounting, they only have one person. And so the staffing shortage, it's becoming real, right? And then the clients we work with, because I have from sole practitioners to 500-600 person firms, right? A lot of times, if you're under 10, bringing somebody on $40-50 an hour is just too much at that time, right? In order to do the work they need to get done. So the cost savings with us is great. So they're able to start there, build that side of the business, and then they need more client facing and add local staff, right? So the whole idea is you add local staff, you add offshore. And so it's always about complementing them, right? And so, but yeah, there's definitely a shortage going on, because prior to us speaking today, I mean, I usually do 15 calls a day, and in off season, it's like 15 a week, but I'm still doing like 5, 6, 7 calls a day. So it's been busy. Yeah.
And what is what's the sweet spot in terms of your customer? Is it a solo to 2 or 3 person firm, or is it more like 6 to 8 person firm? I mean, what's the sweet spot if you have one?
Yeah, no, we find that the clients are right around, our average firm size is right around 15. So that 10 to 15 mark, because what happens is it's kind of a stopping point for them to scale or grow. They just can't add anything else, and they don't know what to do, right? And they're turning away business at that point because they're just at capacity. And so what I've noticed is when a firm that's a few hundred, they just need a team right away, get going, and then we'll contact the other departments, build from there. But where I see the clients really see the value here and work with us the longest is right around 10 person firms. So it's really the small firms that need the help. They just don't know what else to do. Yep. And their teams are already working 16, 17 hours, and they can't find anybody, right? Can't find local staff, or can't find local experienced staff either, or high turnover too. It's sometimes there's a feeling of entitlement for us, and demanding higher salaries but no experience, or just not responding to a text or phone call, or just not even showing up. These are stories I hear daily, and the CPA firm owners just frustrated. They're like, we're trying here. Yep. I've had job postings since last February, and I've had 2 applications and no one showed up. Yeah, so it's a big frustration point.
Yeah. Are you familiar with the IRS form 7216, which is kind of like, okay. So, because I know a lot of my audience is probably, I just can hear them in my mind. What about 7216? What about 7216, which is authorization that the CPA can have a third party involved? I call it like a privacy protection form. How does Entigrity handle that?
Right. So we are always here to help our clients. So we're going to provide guidelines in regards to that. But this concept's been going on 25 years. So it's nothing new, right? And the big four, I mean, there have to be approaching at least 400,000 associates alone in India. But yeah, there's going to be a point where, especially with individual taxes, where the sensitivity of the social for anyone offshore, doesn't matter what country. And so in that instance, you're going to have to get consent, right? Mm-hmm. And there's always a stigma around that too, because it's like, oh, no, we can't get consent. All of our clients are going to say, no, I already know it. Yep. And then I say, well, have you asked them? And then everyone looks at me and they're like, no, we just know this. And I'm like, but did you ask them? And they again say, no, we just know this. So what we did was there was a couple cases where we had to get consent for sure. And we just did a trial of 100. So 2 separate clients, 2 separate trials of 100. And the client and I were joking around saying, yeah, we're going to get 100 no's. I know, but let's just do it, right? Well, when all the engagement letters were returned, we were laughing. It was like, there was only like 10 no's on one case. The other one had 12 no's. So it was the reverse. The clients
Exactly.
really didn't matter.
Exactly.
Half of them don't read it, but it's still,
Right.
with the ones that did, they're fine with it. Because otherwise you're going to have to raise the price, right? And the clients don't want that. They want the same product at a good value, and they don't want a price increase. So yeah, sure. I'm entrusting you to get the work done effectively and efficiently and protect my data security for sure,
Yep.
right? And so it was refreshing to see that, because even myself working in the industry, I was like, yeah, we're going to get 100 no's too. But we did it. We did it. And so it's fine, right? It's fine. And there's going to be, there still are certain stigmas that around the aspect because of them just not being, here in the country. And it's something that we're going to be having to work through for years to come. But for sure, with everything going on and realizing the power of a global workforce, I mean, it's definitely exciting times.
Yeah. One of the resources we provide our members is an engagement letter. And there's a dedicated paragraph specifically. The language is, if we need to bring somebody in on your project, we will do that. So we kind of cover it also in the engagement letter, but you're exactly right. Most people aren't going to read it. And the ones that do, look, they just want to get the work done. I mean, in my case, think about it. My clients are dealing with people with IRS problems. A lot of them are non-filers. So if someone has 4 to 7 years of unfiled returns to get done, trust me, they're not looking at who's signing the tax return. They're not looking at anything. They just want to get it done so that they can go on to the next level with the IRS and prosecute a settlement.
There you go. Exactly. Yep.
So I know we're running up against the time. I know that we only have a certain amount of time today. Chris, where could people learn more about you and Entigrity?
Yeah, sure. First off, I'm very big on LinkedIn. My colleagues and friends are all on Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, TikTok, all that, right? I'm very much into LinkedIn because of the environment. So you just type in my name, Chris Rivera, there. And we also do, we like to be very transparent, and so to make clients at ease. So I actually do webinars via my CPE every Friday at noon. And so they could check out my CPE, LinkedIn, and then obviously our website, entigrity.com, spelled Entigrity. And we're actually, since it's now slowing down, we're looking to create more video, right? And so we're brainstorming and speaking with some companies now on how to educate via video. And so there's a lot of fun things that are coming, that a lot more talking that I'll have to do in recording. So it's exciting for me as well. But yeah, LinkedIn, our website, and check out our webinars on my CPE.
Right. And those are free, I believe, for the general public.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
Paid for by us. Don't worry.
And they get an hour of CPE to boot.
Yeah. You get 1 CPE, or in Canada, CE credit. Yep.
All right. Cool. All right. Sounds good, Chris. Glad to have you on the show this week. Some great value, some great content. Check out Chris Rivera on LinkedIn. That's Chris, CHRIS, Rivera, RIVERA, or Entigrity.com with an E. All right, Chris, thank you so much. And I'm sure that we will be speaking soon.
Yes, sir. Thanks, Michael. Have a good week.
All right. Bye-bye. You too. Hey, Michael Rosbrook here, the Roz Man, the tax resolution guy. Go check out my podcast, The Tax Resolution Success Show, on Apple or Google. Subscribe, or you can go to my website, rozstrategies.com, and go to the podcast page. It's a great show. Hope you subscribe. I'll see you there.